You think the worst thing on a train or bus is overcrowding rude passengers, a bad smell, or a delayed trip. In today's video, Mystery Caught on Camera will show you things that should never be allowed to appear on a transit vehicle. An alien child sitting calmly among a busy crowd, a man convulsing and slithering on the floor, exactly like a snake, a phantom woman chasing a night bus at terrifying speeds, and a sleeping passenger with a neck bent at a highly illogical angle. These are real pieces of footage recorded by the passengers themselves, people who only hoped for a normal commute. When the doors close and the wheels start rolling, sometimes you are not just traveling with humans. The possessed passenger on a New York night bus. For passengers riding the night bus in New York City, strange encounters are not exactly rare. But this piece of footage brings a completely different level of terror. The video was uploaded to Twitter and rapidly scrubbed from the internet on the very same night. Initially, the camera focuses on a man with dreadlocks sitting quietly in the passenger row. Suddenly, the silence is torn apart when he tilts his head back and bursts into maniacal laughter. The sound is incredibly chilling. Right after that, the man begins throwing his arms around in the air with violent, jerky movements. His face contorts, and his wide-open eyes become cloudy and completely lifeless. His entire body twists as if being controlled by some unseen force. It truly looks like he has lost all ability to command his own physical form. Is this a sudden medical episode, or is he actually being possessed by something sinister? The unexplained disappearance of the original clip only fuels more questions. Certainly, no one wants to be trapped on a moving bus trying to figure out the answer to this terrifying display. The possessed passenger on a New York night bus. Late-night subway trains always carry a certain creepy atmosphere. But for the witness recording this video, that emptiness was just the beginning of an inexplicable phenomenon. The footage starts with a worker wearing a brightly colored vest patrolling down the passenger car. Everything seems completely normal until the man suddenly freezes in place. He starts twitching and then walks backward with incredibly stiff and unnatural movements. The person filming is clearly panicked and steps back. But the most horrifying second happens when the witness turns the camera in the opposite direction. Through the reflection on the train window, the silhouette of that same worker unexpectedly charges toward the lens at terrifying speed. The frame immediately shakes in absolute panic. What makes the story truly haunting lies in the final seconds. Right after that terrifying sequence, the man casually walks back into the passenger cabin looking completely normal, acting as if absolutely nothing had happened. Is this a highly coordinated prank? Or is some invisible entity actively manipulating human minds on public transit? The sleeping passenger on a Chicago bus. Bus rides in the city of Chicago are often filled with exhaustion. Passengers falling asleep in their seats is a completely normal sight. But this footage captures a moment that makes us shiver and question the biological structure of the person sitting across the aisle. The video begins with an image of a young man in a plaid shirt falling into a deep sleep. Everything would be perfectly normal if his head was not tilted to the side at a highly illogical angle. As the camera zooms in, a horrifying detail becomes clear. The man's neck is stretched out in a highly unnatural manner. His body proportions are completely wrong. The neck joint bends in a position that would absolutely snap the spine of any normal human being. Is this an extremely rare bone deformity? Or is it just a clever optical illusion tricking our eyes? Many viewers firmly believe this is a product of digital manipulation. But if this footage is genuine, the scariest part is the silence surrounding him. Not a single passenger on that bus dared to step closer and wake up this bizarre traveler. The slithering passenger on the Paris metro. Passengers on a subway train in Paris experienced true terror when they witnessed a bizarre scene unfolding right in the middle of the aisle. The video recorded by a bystander shows a man suddenly collapsing onto the floor. But he did not pass out. Instead, this man began to violently writhe around while lying completely flat on his stomach. He screamed in apparent agony and attempted to slither across the floor using grotesque movements exactly like a snake. The passengers surrounding him clearly displayed absolute panic on their faces. Several people hastily stepped back to get away from the human-shaped creature twisting under their feet. The entire incident happened so abruptly that no one dared to step forward and intervene. Why would he exhibit such completely deranged behavior? Is this a severe panic attack triggered by unknown substances, or does the truth hold a much darker shade? It is highly possible that during this horrifying moment, this man simply possessed absolutely no ownership over his own physical body. This terrifying display of manipulation reminds us that not everyone on the train is actually driving their own mind. The alien child on the New York C train. A normal morning in New York City quickly became the center of attention on a C-line subway train. Amidst the rushing crowd, a highly unusual sight was captured by a bystander's camera. According to witnesses, a mysterious woman brought a childlike creature to the station and let him board the train entirely alone. Immediately, the eyes of every passenger inside locked onto this bizarre traveler. This entity possessed a physical appearance completely different from normal humans. The head of the child was massively disproportionate with a completely smooth and rounded cranium. The skin of the creature had a very strange, pale green tint. The dark and hollow eyes seemed to show absolutely no emotion while looking around the busy cabin. Many curious passengers quickly pulled out their phones to record this unbelievable moment. The boy just sat there in absolute silence, calmly facing the dozens of camera lenses pointed directly at him. Is this an elaborate marketing campaign featuring top-tier cinematic prosthetics, or is an actual extraterrestrial entity openly commuting through the heart of America? The sheer calmness of this creature only makes the footage that much more terrifying. The phantom hitchhiker on a Mexican highway. Late-night cross-country bus rides always carry a distinct feeling of isolation. But for one passenger traveling through Los Mochis in Sinaloa, Mexico, that isolation was completely shattered by an incredibly haunting sight. While looking out the glass window, this witness recorded a motorcycle riding parallel to them on the dark highway. The anomaly was not the driver himself, but rather the thing sitting directly behind his back. Clinging tightly to the back seat was the figure of a woman with long, disheveled black hair covering half of her face. The skin of this entity was illogically white under the streetlights, heavily resembling the vengeful ghosts from terrifying urban legends. The most frightening detail is that the man steering the bike appeared completely unaware of his uninvited guest. He was even casually checking his mobile phone with one hand while cruising along at the high speeds. Is this an elaborate prank utilizing a mannequin designed to terrify passing drivers? Or did that unfortunate rider actually pick up a restless spirit wandering along the desolate highway? Certainly, nobody wants to find out what his reaction will be when he finally parks the bike and turns his head to look directly behind him. The silhouette on the Massachusetts night train. The feeling of being completely alone on an underground subway train always brings an indescribable sense of unease to any traveler. A passenger taking a late-night trip in Massachusetts decided to record their entirely empty train car to share an update on social media. Initially, the person slowly pans their phone camera down the row of bright red seats in the right side cabin. The space is dead quiet, appearing completely devoid of any human presence. But when the witness turns the camera toward the left cabin, that peaceful silence suddenly becomes incredibly terrifying. At the very far end of the aisle connecting the train cars, a tall, dark silhouette is standing perfectly still. That ominous figure remains completely motionless, melting into the blurry corner under the flickering neon lights. The person filming does not step closer to investigate, and the video simply ends abruptly. Online viewers quickly came up with conflicting opinions. Some argue that it is merely an optical illusion caused by overhead light reflecting off the glass doors. Others firmly believe it is a dangerous stalker silently observing their prey. The most frightening theory suggests that the entity standing at the end of the car is not a living person at all. What would you do if you were trapped underground with this unknown figure? The phantom on the Singapore double-decker driving a night bus means constantly facing an eerie silence. For one bus captain in Singapore, that silence quickly turned into absolute terror. The incident occurred in the wee hours of the morning, when the double-decker bus was completely empty of passengers. While sitting in the driver's seat, the man checked the security camera monitor and noticed something deeply unsettling. In the upper deck seats, a figure dressed in black was sitting perfectly still. The camera footage even clearly showed a foot belonging to the entity protruding into the aisle. A red arrow in the clip points directly at this mysterious dark shadow to confirm its presence. The most chilling detail is that the automated passenger count on the monitor still displayed a solid 0. Determined to find the truth, the driver decided to walk up to the second level to investigate. When he pointed his phone camera down the long aisle, the entire row of light blue seats was completely empty. The dark figure had vanished into thin air, and there was no one to be found. Is this merely a technical glitch in the camera system? Or is this bus actually carrying a restless spirit? Sometimes an empty space is the clearest proof of things our eyes cannot normally see. The child's face on the New York train window. The underground subway system in New York State has always harbored dark and unsettling secrets. One passenger accidentally recorded this terrifying sight while filming on their phone to kill some time. The train car was quite empty, with only a few people resting on the blue patterned seats. Everything inside the cabin appeared completely normal, but the true horror was waiting just outside the glass. As the train rushed through the pitch-black tunnels, the dim lighting reflected a bizarre shape on the window. Initially, it looked like nothing more than a blurry smudge passing by in the dark. But when the video footage is heavily zoomed in, a pale face with hollow eyes slowly becomes visible. This is absolutely not the reflection of anyone sitting inside the carriage. The facial features clearly belong to a young child staring directly into the cabin with a totally lifeless expression. This flickering phantom appears and vanishes with every passing tunnel light. Is this merely a coincidental optical illusion created by light and dirt smeared on the glass? Or is there actually a lost soul desperately clinging to the side of a late-night train? The brief moment that face emerges from the darkness will certainly make anyone think twice before looking out a subway window ever again. The dark figure on a rural American bus. Late-night bus routes traveling through isolated rural towns in America always carry a deeply unsettling atmosphere. There are no bright streetlights, no bustling city sounds, just the low hum of the engine piercing the dark. A passenger pulled out their phone to record the quiet interior of their moving bus. At first glance, the entire row of blue seats appeared to be completely deserted. But as the camera pointed toward the very back of the vehicle, a highly abnormal detail emerged right next to the yellow handrails. Tucked in the dark corner of the last row, a pitch-black figure was sitting perfectly still. That silhouette was so intensely dark that it seemed to absorb all the surrounding artificial light. This entity lacked any visible face or identifiable clothing. It was simply a thick mass of absolute darkness, shaped exactly like a human, sitting silently in the corner. The person filming stood completely frozen in place and did not dare to take another step forward. Is this just a regular passenger wearing incredibly dark clothing, falling asleep in the shadows, or is it an actual supernatural entity hitching a ride on this late-night route? The sheer stillness of that dark mass easily leaves any viewer feeling completely breathless. The underground inferno in Seoul. Threats on public transportation do not always originate from the supernatural realm. Sometimes absolute terror comes directly from the fellow passengers riding right alongside us. A piece of video footage recorded on a moving subway train in Seoul perfectly demonstrates this harsh reality. The faces of the perpetrator and the victims have been intentionally blurred to prevent anyone from copying this highly dangerous behavior. The horrifying incident began when a man unexpectedly stepped into the center aisle and poured an unidentified liquid onto the floor. As soon as people realized it was a highly flammable substance, the peaceful atmosphere inside the cabin completely shattered. Dozens of passengers fell into absolute panic and began frantically running toward the rear cars in a desperate attempt to escape. Despite the chaotic fear surrounding him, the attacker calmly proceeded with his sinister plan. He threw an igniting device directly onto the trail of liquid. In a fraction of a second, a massive fireball erupted violently and entirely consumed the walkway. The exact moment that fire violently erupts inside a sealed moving underground tube is undoubtedly the worst possible nightmare for any traveler. What would you actually do to survive when your only exit route is suddenly blocked by a solid wall of flames? The white figure on the American Railway. The view from a train cabin usually offers breathtaking scenery for the crew. But for an engineer driving through a completely remote area in the United States, that peaceful landscape quickly turned into a chilling daytime encounter. The video begins by showing an empty set of railway tracks winding gently through a series of barren, grassy hills. Everything appears to be perfectly normal as the massive machine cruises forward at a steady high speed. As the train closely approaches a slight curve, a blurry white anomaly suddenly enters the frame on the right side of the tracks. Within mere seconds, that mysterious shape becomes terrifyingly clear right in front of the moving vehicle. It is a highly translucent entity heavily resembling a woman wearing a long, flowing white dress. This bizarre figure stands completely motionless right on the deadly path of the train. The heavy locomotive barrels directly through that exact spot without making any physical impact whatsoever. Is this simply a rare optical illusion caused by sunlight reflecting off the thick windshield glass? Or did the camera actually capture the residual phantom of a tragic accident that happened at this very location? That brief, chilling sight will definitely make anyone think twice before crossing an abandoned railway track alone. The subway teleportation anomaly. A recent piece of subway surveillance footage has left viewers completely baffled by capturing an apparent spatial teleportation right in front of multiple witnesses. Initially, the train car looks perfectly normal, with a few passengers resting quietly. The most notable detail is a woman wearing a white coat sitting calmly next to her handbag. Suddenly, all the overhead lights completely shut off and plunge the entire space into pitch-black darkness. When the neon lights flicker back on just a few seconds later, an unbelievable event has occurred. The woman in the white coat has completely vanished into thin air. The only thing left behind is her light-colored bag sitting abandoned on the orange bench. The surrounding passengers remain perfectly still, as if they are completely unaware of this highly illogical disappearance. Did that woman accidentally step into an entirely different dimension? The actual answer brings a very modern type of terror. If you look closely at the darkened frame, you will clearly see the logo of an AI video generation tool. This terrifyingly realistic footage is entirely the product of artificial intelligence. Sometimes, the rapid evolution of deepfake technology is the most frightening monster of all. The horrifying mosquito swarm. Inside a sealed train, our very last moment, caught on a camera of a passenger named Elizabeth, recorded an unprecedented scene of chaos on a night train departing from Guadalajara to Mexico City. Just minutes after the train left the station, hundreds of tiny dark specks began to appear thickly under the ceiling lights. That was not floating dust, but rather a massive swarm of mosquitoes flying around chaotically. The initial discomfort quickly escalated into absolute panic as the passengers realized the cabin doors were tightly sealed. These bloodthirsty insects continuously clung to the seats, the glass windows, and swarmed around dozens of trapped humans with no way out. The video footage shows train crew members desperately waving their arms and spraying insect repellent directly into the air. Why would such an overwhelmingly large swarm of mosquitoes be able to infiltrate an enclosed space? Did they build a nest under the passenger seats long ago? Or did someone accidentally carry the infestation from outside? Regardless of the actual reason, being locked inside a dark moving tube with disease-carrying insects is definitely a horrifying experience nobody ever wants to endure. Every single day, we pass through countless transit stops, bus stations, and underground subway platforms. We easily believe that our journey is simply about moving from one point to another. But the chilling moments we just watched have proven a much more terrifying reality. The world that we glide past every day through the glass windows is not nearly as safe and empty as we think. The dark silhouettes hiding at the end of the train cars, the invisible entities manipulating human minds, or the creatures that completely do not belong in this world, are silently existing right beside us. The next time you step onto a late-night bus or a deserted train cabin, try putting your phone down and taking a close look around. You might just realize that you are not alone at all. We want to know where our brave viewers are watching from today. Drop a comment below telling us which state or country you live in. And if you have ever witnessed any bizarre phenomenon on public transportation in your area, do not hesitate to share your own story. Maybe your eyes simply played tricks on you, or maybe you accidentally saw the veil of reality being lifted. Make sure to subscribe to Mystery Caught on Camera so you never miss out on our upcoming haunting footage. We wish you safe travels on your daily commute, and we will see you next time.